Hello and welcome to our discussion on the financial statements. In this session, we will understand the impact of these four decisions: cash dividend, stock dividend, stock split and rights issue on the balance sheet. So a balance sheet is given, an opening balance sheet, and we will examine how the stock dividend, cash dividend and stock split and rights issue will affect the balance sheet. In the process, we'll understand the impact of these decisions on the book value per share. So at present, the present information given, the number of shares is 200,000 because the capital is 400,000. The face value is given as 2. So the number of shares is equal to 400,000 divided by 2. Equity of the company is 200,000 plus the retained profit. So retained profit is 600,000. So the book value per share is the equity divided by number of shares. So at present, the equity of the company is 5. Now with this information, we will try to examine what will be the impact of the decisions like cash dividend, stock dividend, stock split and rights issue on the balance sheet and also on the book value per share. So the first decision is the cash dividend. When a company pays cash dividend, the dividend, if not mentioned, it will always be calculated on the capital. So when the cash dividend is given as 50%, so 50% is calculated on the amount of capital. So therefore, in this case, the dividend that company will be distributing is 50%, that is amount is equal to 200,000. So when the company declares dividend, dividend is a distribution of accumulated profit. So the retained profit will reduce. Retained profit will reduce. And there is a payment of cash. So cash will reduce to the extent of 200,000. So the impact of these decisions on the decision of cash dividend is in the form of reduction of cash and reduction of dividend. Reduction of cash by 200,000 and reduction of retained profit by 200,000. There is no change in the capital. There is no change in the bonds. There is no change in the creditor. So the total of the balance sheet or the sources is 1.3 million. There is no change in the stock and there is no change in the receivable. So the total assets will also reduce to the extent of the amount of dividend paid. So what is the impact on the book value? The book value is now reduced to 4. But why did the book value reduce? The book value reduced because the number of shares remaining same, but the equity has come down. Why did the equity come down? Equity has come down because the retained profit has come down. And the retained profit has come down because the dividend has been distributed. So cash dividend leads to reduction of cash, reduction of retained profit, and reduction in the book value per share. Will the impact be same when there is a stock dividend? Now let us examine. Stock dividend is a distribution of profit in the form of shares. So here we don't give cash, but we give shares to the existing shareholders in the form of distributing the dividend, or we distribute dividend in the form of shares. The dividend ratio is given as 1:2. That means one bonus share is given for 2 shares, existing shares. So the existing shares is 200,000, right? We know already existing share is 200. For all these cases, we'll take this as a base case, okay? We're understanding the impact of these decisions on the base case, so the existing number of shares is equal to 200,000. 200,000 is capital divided by the face value. And the face value was 2. Now, we are giving the stock dividend in the ratio of 1 share for every 2 shares. So therefore, the new shares issued to the existing shareholders, because we want to distribute the dividend, is 1:2. So for every 2 share, 1 share is given. So the new shares issued is 100,000. The face value of the share is 2. So the amount of capital increase because of the dividend, because of stock dividend, is 200,000. So let us see what happens. Capital will increase now because we are issuing shares to the existing shareholders. And the reserves or retained profit will reduce because we are distributing the profit. We are distributing the profit. So the impact of the stock dividend will be like this. The capital will increase and the retained profit will reduce. Capital will increase because the dividend is given in the form of shares. And retained profit will decrease because we are distributing retained profit. No change in the bonds, okay? No change in the bonds, no change in the creditor. Observe, the total is same as the base case. The amount of the total of the sources is same, because in this case we just converted capital, we converted the profits into capital. There is no change in the inventory. There is no change in the cash because we have not paid cash. And of course there is no change in the receivable. And the total of these sources will be equal to the assets. What is the impact of this on the... We can see that the number of shares have gone up. The number of shares have gone up because the capital has gone up. The capital has gone up because we have issued bonus shares to the existing shareholders. Bonus shares. And equity, there is no change because the capital has increased because of the decrease in the retained profit. As a result, the book value per share has come down from 5 to 3.3. So whether you give cash dividend or stock dividend, the book value per share falls. In this case, the book value in the case of stock dividend, book value has reduced because the equity has come down from 100,000 to 800,000. But in this case, in the case of stock dividend, the fall in the book value per share is because the number of shares have gone up, but equity remains same at 1 million. So in both the cases, the cash dividend and stock dividend, there is a change in the book value. But the reasons for the change are different. One case, equity falls. In other case, the increase in the number of shares. Now let us see the impact of stock split on the original balance sheet. In case of stock split, the stock split happens by just changing the face value of the shares, or in fact reducing the face value of the shares. So here we are splitting the stock in the ratio of 4:1. That means 4 shares are issued to the existing 1 share. In other words, 1 share is divided into 4 shares, split into 4 shares. So what happens? If it is in the ratio 4:1, I'm reducing the face value to 0.45. The existing number of shares is 200,000. Existing face value is 2. So existing capital is 400,000. If existing capital is 400,000 and I'm now reducing the face value from 2 to 1/4, that is 0.5. If the face value is reduced without changing the amount of capital, that means I'm increasing the number of shares to 800,000. But will the capital anyway change? The answer is no. The capital remains same, right? But the number of shares is increasing. So what will happen to the capital? Capital will be number of shares into the face value. So the capital is same, no change in the capital. However, the number of shares are increasing. However, the number of shares increases. How much now? The number of shares is, see this? The number of shares will be number of shares 400,000 divided by 0.5. So the number of shares have gone up. Number of shares have gone up to 800,000. The number of shares is equal to capital divided by the new face value, and so therefore the number of shares have gone up to 800,000. Did this result any change in the retained profit? No, because it is not a distribution of profit. And did this result in any outflow or inflow of cash? No, because this does not involve any cash outflow or cash inflow. So what happens to the capital? The capital remains same, but the number of shares goes up. And there is no change in any other item of the balance sheet. So the impact of the stock split on the balance sheet is the number of shares change, except that there is no other change. So the equity remaining same, okay, equity remaining same, and the book value per share will now change, and book value is changing because we have increased the number of shares. And why did the number of shares increase? Because there was a stock split. How did the stock split happen? By reducing the face value of the company. So stock split is a reduction of the face value. Because of the reduction in the face value, the number of shares increase. Since all other things remain same, because the number of shares have increased and equity is same, no change, so the book value falls. So in cash dividend, cash changes and profit changes, retained profit changes. In stock dividend, no change in the cash, but the profit reduces, number of shares increase. In case of stock split, no change in the retained profit, only the number of shares change and no change in the capital, so the book value changes. And let us see the last one for this discussion. The last one is a rights issue. The rights issue is the issue of shares to the existing shareholders, as one of the rights of the shareholders is to be given the shares to the existing shareholders in case of any subsequent issue of shares. And this right is called preemptive right. So in this case, we are giving a rights issue in the ratio of 1:2. That means for every 2 shares, we are giving 1 share. 1:2, 1 for 2. So the existing shares are 200,000. Okay? And we are giving the new shares 100,000. Okay, let me close this so that we can. So the existing shares is 200,000, existing number of shares, and the face value is 2. The capital is 400,000, that is the existing. And we are making a rights issue in the ratio of 1:2, 1 share for every 2 shares. So since there are 200,000 shares, the new shares issued is 100,000. Okay? And the face value of the shares remain same. So the capital will increase by 200,000 and cash will increase. Cash increases by 200,000 because the shareholders buy the shares by giving cash. So what will be the impact on the balance sheet? Again, with the original balance sheet, the capital will increase by 200,000 and cash will increase by 200,000. Capital will increase by 200,000 and cash will increase by 200,000. Why is the capital increasing? Capital is increasing because of the fresh issue of shares. And this fresh issue of shares have been made to the existing shareholders in the form of rights issue. And the rights issue is the issue to the existing shareholders. In this case, we have assumed the shares are issued at par. But sometimes the shares can be issued at a premium. But it may be issued at a price less than the market price. So for the time being, we're just observing the impact of the shares here, rights shares on the balance sheet, assuming that the shares are issued at the face value. Did the retained profit change? No, because rights issue is not a distribution of profit. Did the bonds change? No change in any other item, because it is only the change in the capital, and the capital has increased because of the issue of rights shares. What about the asset side? On the asset side also, only change is the cash, no change in the inventory, and no change in the receivable. So the change in the balance sheet is only the change in cash and change in the capital. What's happening to the book value per share? The book value per share will change, because change means from the original one, which we are keeping here. Yeah, okay, original balance sheet, the original book value. Original book value is 5. Now you can observe that in all the 4 cases, stock dividend, cash dividend, stock split, and rights issue, the book value has been changing. But the reasons for the change are not same. In case of stock dividend, the book value has decreased because the number of shares have increased. In case of cash dividend, book value has decreased because the equity has decreased. In case of stock split, the book value has decreased because the number of shares have gone up. A number of shares have gone up because we have reduced the face value. In case of rights issue, there is a change in both the number of shares as well as the amount of equity, because the capital has also gone up. So, when we try to understand the impact of financing decisions on the balance sheet, we should examine the impact of that on equity, on the book value per share, and cash if any. So examining the financing decisions like stock dividend, cash dividend, stock split, and rights issue can be done through the lens of changes in the book value per share. And we are examining the book value per share because we made an assumption that the price can be market price. We made an assumption that market price can be explained, or the change in the market price, the change in the market price of the shares, that means the price at which the shares are traded, the change in the market price can be explained by observing, can be explained by the book value per share. That's an assumption. We're saying that price is not in our control. Price is determined by the market. However, it is possible to understand the reasons for the change in the price, and one of them in an accounting class is the book value per share. Thank you very much.